Marietta's inventory just hit 3.6 months. That's not a crash. That's actually the first real buyer's market Atlanta's seen in years. And if you're sitting on the sidelines waiting for prices to drop before you buy, I need you to hear this clearly. You're misreading the data and it's costing you every day. Before we get into the numbers, if you're finding this useful, hit the like button right now and subscribe so you don't miss the next breakdown. Every week I'm going deep on specific Atlanta submarkets with actual data, not headlines, not doom, and not clicks. Real numbers, real strategy. Let's get into it. I'm Darren Hunter, mortgage lending strategist out of Woodstock, Georgia. My team works with buyers across North Metro Atlanta, Cherokee, Cobb, North Fulton, and right now, Marietta is the most interesting submarket I'm watching. If you want to talk through your specific situation, call or text me directly, hit the calendar link in the description to book a strategy call, or scan the QR code on the screen to reach out. We do this every single week. We're not just guessing at strategy, we're executing it. Now, the numbers tell a story that almost nobody online is telling correctly, so I'm gonna fix that. Here's what you're actually looking at in Marietta right now. Average home value, $477,858. Days on market, 54 to 55 days. And homes are closing at 98.37% of the list price. That last number is the one I want you to sit with for just a second. 98.37 cents on the dollar. Not 94, not 90, not 98.37. That tells you this market isn't collapsing. Sellers aren't panicking. Prices aren't in a free fall. But here's where it gets interesting. 33.9% of active listings have seen a price reduction. More than 1 in 3 sellers have already blinked. And that gap between what sellers want and what buyers are actually paying, that's where the opportunity lives right now. Let me give you some geographic context because Marietta isn't just one thing. It's several things layered on top of one another. And where you buy inside the city changes everything about your strategy. You've got the Marietta Square area and Whitlock Heights on one side. Walkable, historic, character-filled neighborhoods with smaller lots and older homes that carry serious charm. These are the streets where people move and they never leave. Demand stays sticky there because the lifestyle is genuinely different from the rest of suburban Atlanta. Then you've got East Cobb, larger lots, newer construction, top-rated schools, and a buyer profile that skews toward move-up families and high-income professionals. These are homes sitting 54 days before going under contract, and a meaningful chunk of that 33.9% price drop activity is concentrated right there. Same city, very different negotiation environments. And that distinction matters enormously when you're structuring an offer because a blanket strategy doesn't work in a market like this. You have to know which pocket you're in before you decide how aggressive to get. Now let's talk about what you can actually do with this data because the information without application is just trivia. The rate environment right now is sitting in the mid 6% range. That's not the 3% world of 2021, and it's not the 8% world of late 2023. It's somewhere in the middle. And for buyers who know how to structure a deal, it creates a very specific opportunity. Seller paid concessions. Here's the play. When a seller has already dropped their price once, or when a home has been sitting for 45 or 50 days, that seller is mentally and emotionally in a different place they were on day one. They listed thinking they'd get full price in 2 weeks. They're now staring at day 54 and wondering what's wrong. Nothing's wrong. The market shifted, but their psychology shifted with it. That's when you walk in with a clean pre-approval, a well-structured offer, and a request for seller pay concessions to fund a temporary interest rate buydown. A 2-1 buydown means your rate is reduced by 2% in year 1 and 1% in year 2 before settling at your permanent rate in year 3. So if your note rate is 6.5%, you're paying 4.5% in year 1, 5.5% in year 2. On a $450,000 loan, that's a meaningful difference in your monthly outlay during the years when you're likely also spending money on furniture, repairs, and just settling in. A 3-2-1 buy down pushes that even further. 3% reduction in year 1, 2% reduction in year 2, 1% reduction in year 3. The seller funds this at closing. You don't bring any extra cash. You're just reducing money the seller was already prepared to discount off the price. And instead of taking it as a lower purchase price, you're taking it as a payment relief on the front end of your loan. Why does this matter? Because a lower purchase price saves you a little bit of cash every month. A funded buy down saves you a lot every month for the first 1 to 3 years, which is typically when cash flow matters most to a new homeowner. This is structured, transactional negotiation, and it only works when you walk in with a real pre-approval, not a pre-qualification, not a letter somebody printed off in 5 minutes. A full credit review, income documented, assets verified, underwriter's eyes on the file pre-approval. That's the difference between a seller taking you seriously and a seller waiting for a better offer. And if you want me to look at that, do me a favor, comment below and I'll be happy to reach out and help you out. Now, I want to address something directly because I've been watching the content coming out about Atlanta real estate, and some of it is genuinely just frankly irresponsible. There are people online right now calling 3.6 months of supply a warning sign, a bubble, a crash in progress. And if you watched any of that content, I understand why you might feel nervous. So let me give you the actual context. A balanced market by every standard definition used by economists and housing analysts is 4 to 6 months of supply. That's the range where neither buyers nor sellers have a structural advantage. Below 3 months is a seller's market. Above 6 months tilts towards a buyer's market. Marietta at 3.6 months is not a crash. It's not even a buyer's market in the traditional sense. It's normalization. It's the market finding its footing after 2 years of extreme seller dominance. We're going 10, 20% over list price before the weekend was over. Going from 0.8 months supply to 3.6 months of supply feels dramatic if you're not used to reading these numbers. But what it actually represents is the market returning to health. Buyers have time to think. Sellers have to compete on price and terms. Inventory exists. That's not a crisis. That's how real estate is supposed to work. The people calling this a bubble collapse are either misleading the data or they're optimizing for clicks. Either way, don't let that narrative drive your financial decisions. Here's the thing about pre-approvals that most buyers don't understand, and this is where I want to spend a minute because it's a piece that actually unlocks everything else we've talked about. A pre-approval isn't just a letter you get so a realtor can show you a house. It's a negotiation tool. It's proof of execution capability. When a seller has been sitting on a home for 54 days and you walk in with a verified, fully underwritten pre-approval, you're communicating something very specific. I can close on time, and I'm not going to be the reason this falls apart in 3 weeks. That certainty has real dollar value. I've seen sellers accept offers that were $10,000 lower than a competing offer because the competing offer came in with a weak pre-qualification and the lower offer came with a strong pre-approval and a clean track record from the lending team. The seller did the math. A certain close at a lower price beats a risky close at a higher price every single time. And when you combine the pre-approval strength and the actual local market knowledge, meaning you know the days on market, you know the price drop history on a specific listing, you know how the East Cobb pocket differs from the Marietta Square, you're not just a buyer, you're a prepared buyer. And a prepared buyer wins concessions that unprepared buyers never even think to ask for. So here's how this comes together as an actual strategy and not just a collection of interesting data points. You identify a home in Marietta that's been sitting for 45 days or more, or that's already taken a price reduction. You come in with a full pre-approval. You make an offer or a slightly below list price and structure the negotiation around seller pay concessions to fund a 2-1 buy down. You're not asking the seller to give you money out of pocket. You're asking them to redirect what they were already willing to lose, and you're directing it towards the first 2 years of payment relief. That's a deal structure that works on both sides. The seller closes, you get the home with a payment that's more manageable in the early years. You bought in a market that's stable, not crashing, which means the equity you build over the next 5 to 7 years is real. Marietta is a city that's been around since 1834. It's not going anywhere. The Marietta Square isn't losing any character. East Cobb isn't losing its school ratings. What changed is that buyers now have time to be thoughtful and sellers now have to earn that deal. That's the window, and windows close. If you're thinking about buying in Marietta or anywhere else in North Metro Atlanta and you want to understand exactly what a real pre-approval process looks like and how to structure deals to get sellers to pay for your buy downs, reach out to me directly. Call or text me, hit the calendar link in the description, or book a time, or scan the QR code on the screen and we'll get a conversation started. My team does this every single week. We're not guessing at strategy, we're executing it. And before you go, if you're new to this channel, please subscribe and hit the notification bell. Every week I'm breaking down specific Atlanta submarkets with actual numbers, not narratives, so you can make decisions based on data instead of doom scrolling. If you found this useful, like the video and follow along. It helps more people find the content and it keeps me putting out the real numbers instead of just the noise. One last thing before you go. Everyone's waiting for the crash that proves them right. Meanwhile, the buyers who stopped waiting and started preparing are the ones who will look back in 5 years and say they got in at exactly the right time. The question isn't whether Marietta is affordable. The question is whether you're prepared enough to take advantage of it while the window is still open, and that is guaranteed.